call to worship this morning is Go to the Limits of Your Longing by Rainier Rilke. God speaks to each of us as God makes us, then walks with us silently out of the night.
These are words we dimly hear.
You, sent out beyond your recall, go to the limits of your longing. Embody me. Flare up like a flame and make big shadows I can move in. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Don't let yourself lose me. Nearby is the country they call life. You will know it by its seriousness.
Give me your hand. Amen.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Mangiameli, and I'm a third-year additive student here at STH. On behalf of On behalf of the entire worship team, I welcome you into this space today. As you look around or as you browse through the bulletin, you might notice that chapel looks a little bit different today than maybe it typically does. Welcome to Chapel Undiscovered. This chapel service is a reflection of a contextual education experience I had last year with BU's Howard Thurman Center. We had a three-part event series called The Undiscovered, which stemmed from the quote that you'll find on the front of your bulletin by Dr. Howard Thurman. It says, "Community cannot for long feed on itself. It can only flourish with the coming of others from beyond, their unknown and undiscovered siblings." Throughout this service today, we will have the opportunity to respond creatively to things that we encounter, but we will also have the opportunity to receive the gifts of people from within our community through visual art, photography, poetry, and song. So as we receive these gifts today, I ask that we reflect on the same questions that the students, both undergrad and graduate, that I worked with last year reflected on, which are, what makes you come alive? Where do you experience fullness and plenty? Although we will be hearing and receiving gifts from people in our community, I hope that these will help us to settle a little bit more into our own bodies today. So today's service is modeled after the Undiscovered, and this too will be holy and sacred worship. Thank you. Not that you need an invitation, but I will invite you now to greet one another as you pass
Peace be with you. Hi, peace be with you.
As we start this morning, I would like to share the part of myself that is unknown or undiscovered, as Howard Thurman says. And that part of myself is grief. And anyone who's experienced grief or is in the process of grief knows that one of the most difficult parts is finding the words, the experiences, the stories, the songs that speak to the relationship and those experiences that you had with someone who you lost. Now, I went through this process about 1.5 years ago. I lost my childhood best friend Dustin Collier, who had a lifelong battle with cancer. And we were friends for 20 years. And what was hard for me was that the visitation, the funeral, none of those things really spoke to the entirety of the person that I knew. Because I knew this person that I grew up with. And I knew them through this whole long experience. And then I turned to, in my process of grieving, I turned to a song that I remember hearing for the first time when my best friend spent an entire year in treatment and 3 months in a coma. And this song is called "The Predatory Wasp of the Palisades is Out to Get Us" by Sufjan Stevens. But it's a song that's about friendship, about tender, vulnerable friendship, and those experiences that speak to the innermost part of ourselves, the unknown, the undiscovered. So enjoy. Thinking outrageously, I write in cursive, I hide in my bed with the lights on the floor. Wearing 3 layers of coats and leg warmers, I see my own breath on the face of the door. Oh, I am not quite sleeping. Oh, I am fast in bed. There on the wall in the bedroom creeping, I see a wasp with her wings outstretched. North of Savannah, we swim in the Palisades. I come out wearing my brother's red hat. There on his shoulder, my best friend is bit. 7 times he runs, washing his face in his hands. Oh, how I meant to tease him. Oh, how I meant no harm. Touching his back with my hand, I kiss him. I see the wasp at the length of his arm. I can't explain the state that I'm in, the state of my heart. He was my best friend. Into the car, from the back seat, oh admiration, falling asleep. All of my powers, day after day, I can tell you, we swaggered and swayed deep in the tower, the prairies below. my friend is gone, and he ran away. I can tell you I love him each day. Though we have sparred and wrestled and raged, I can tell you I love him each day. Terrible state, a terrible storm, I can tell you.
My name is Erin. I'm a second-year MDiv MSW student here, but long before that, I got an art degree. And so like I was telling the prospective students yesterday, I'm thankful for all of the ways that School of Theology lets that part of myself flourish as well. So in the narthex, on the left-hand side, you'll see two pieces that I've made. The first, there are six photo transfers hanging that are part of a larger series of 16 that I made in response to the 2016 General Conference as I was working for a United Methodist nonprofit in South Florida. The piece is called People of the Middle Don't Take Sides. And it was when I kind of had a realization that the powers that are forces of exclusion for LGBTQ folks are the same powers that are forces of exclusion for our immigrants and our low SES communities. And so feeling the weight of all of that connectedness fostered that project. And the second piece is called Measured Contours of Your Own Desperation, which is a piece I made for Dr. Rambo's Trauma and Theology class last semester as part of my final project. It's a set of drawers that don't work. They can't open. It speaks to the way that people hold trauma and how that doesn't go away and how it isn't accessed by normal sources of narrative, which is why things or moments like these are so important, where our art, our poetics, our liturgy, our theology can speak to our experience more than our words can. So later on in the service, when we have a moment to move throughout the chapel, you'll be able to see my work as well as the other folks that you'll hear from.
Morning. I'm going to share a poem that I wrote during a period of time when I was really wrestling with, do I, as a Black woman, am I created in the image of God? Because I had grown up with a specific image and I couldn't identify with that image. And so that's what gave birth to this poem. Abolition, absolution, what's the difference? The topic is God. You want to tell me about her, you're not the only one. I've given myself permission to seek she who calls me. She who created Eden. She who found me abandoned and bleeding. Drowning in my sin, my own and those against me. But I almost suffocated in lies about her. She who looks like me. The Black infinity engulfs us infinitely. I cannot ignore where she reigns. We are the universe exploring itself intimately. Nothing new under the sun. Magic flowing through veins intentionally. Can I love God and myself simultaneously? This world attempted to bury me, but was unaware I am composed of indestructible seeds, from a source never known to be depleted. Undesirable questions from my friends back home about my relationship with God reminds me of the box I escaped. I had to get out in search of God. I had no clue of where to find her, but it's evident she isn't inside the box with the spruce pews upholding traditions long past due. Unable to witness the many hues of her, the Creator, she who looks like me.
Hi, I'm Joanne. I'm a first-year MDiv student, and I am a visual artist. And that was my first calling. When I was 16, I knew it was on a normal winter day walk in the suburbs of Connecticut. So I had been following that calling all my life. And then recently God got the crazy idea that I need to be here. And I have been working on a series since the early aughts called Random Acts of Beauty. One of the covered things that you don't know about me is I grew up with a lot of chaos in my home life. And mathematics was my refuge. Even in art school, I took Calc 2 and 3, as one does. So these pieces, it's all a variation on a theme. I use random numbers and a grid to tame chaos. But it also is playing with the human need to find pattern. And I frustrate that. And it's to invite you, the viewer, to be okay with chaos. It's to invite me to be okay with chaos. And the process itself is very meditative. So there's a surrender, a letting go as I make these. So it's in the narthex. When you go to the left, it's on the opposite wall.
Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm a third-year MDiv student, and this song performance with my friend Sean is kind of a play on two different themes. In my undergrad, I studied music therapy, and I lost my ability to pursue that call, which was very hard for me. However, it gave me a really beautiful gift to enjoy music simply as a passion and no longer as like the burden of a professional, which I am learning to be thankful for. The second thing that I am pointing to in this song is I know anxiety very well, and I think instead I just try to take each day for what it is and rest in the thing that you can be scared of almost anything, but you can also choose joy, and it is an informed choice, and it's sometimes a difficult choice, but it is always a choice.
Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright.
Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun. 3 little birds perched by my doorstep, singing sweet songs, a melody pure and true, saying, this is my message to you.
Singing, don't worry
About a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is
gonna be alright.
Now, all the tax collectors were coming near to listen to him, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying,
"This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them."
So he told them this parable. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the shares of the property that will belong to me." So he divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country. And there he squandered his property in desolate living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of the country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything.
But when he came to himself and said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? But here I am dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.'"
So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off,
His father saw him and was filled with compassion.
He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him,
"Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son."
But the father said to his hired hands, "Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and get the fatted calf and kill it.
And let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again.
He was lost and is found," and they begin to celebrate.
The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Hello everyone. I want to send a special welcome to those Dean's Fellows that are here with us today. Thank you for witnessing this part of our community. It's really special to have you here. Will you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be pleasing to you, O God. Amen. It's very special for me to see the undiscovered unfolding in this chapel. Part of my journey here at the School of Theology had started with me feeling pushed out of church, pushed out of chapel spaces, and doing anything I could to find something similar so the undiscovered grew. But now we are here, and the undiscovered is inside the walls of these chapels. We're surrounded by stained glass. We heard the organ, and the service started with instrumental trap beats, so I would say we have arrived. The story of the prodigal son is in a line of parables in chapter 15 of Luke. Rejoice in the found sheep. Rejoice in the found coin. Rejoice in the found son. These celebrations and these parables surrounding the finding of lost things is obvious and repetitive. The parable of the prodigal son, however, journeys alongside the son through his lostness. This story is typically read and preached in such a way that condemns the lostness and rejoices in the foundness of the son. This is a story of grace. This is a welcome home story. This is a joyful return. And although I believe all of those things to be true in their own right, that's not what I'm here to share with you today. This is a story about being lost. Not necessarily just finding yourself on the wrong path or squandering your property in dissolute living, as the text says, but finding yourself in a lost place, an unfamiliar place, a place that feels uncomfortable, a place where your breath doesn't flow easily out of your lungs, where your voice shakes out of your mouth, the wilderness. This is a season of wilderness. We are all tangled up in the midst of lost places. For some of us in here, our own minds trap us in lost places. For some of us, church doctrine has pushed us into the wilderness. For some of us, systematic forces have orchestrated calculated wilderness plans against our bodies for centuries. For some of us, the experience of wilderness and lostness is rooted so deeply in our bones that we don't know what home looks like. So how then do we return home if, unlike the prodigal son, we can't even imagine what home looks like? Therefore, we cannot think to return to our family's homestead, even in repentance, to be welcomed with robes and decadent feasts, for we are lost. We are cloaked in lostness. I'm reminded of a painting I saw for the first time this weekend by Nate DeVary, who many of you know. Nate revealed this painting, titled Menders of the Breach, at a queer resistance service at Old West Church this past Sunday. This painting was a self-portrait. There's a figure sitting on a ledge, surrounded by church steeples below him, and his entire torso is an open stained glass frame, his hands outstretched, holding pieces of broken glass. Other hands reaching from beyond, holding pieces of glass that are somehow to find a home nestled in the torso of the figure. This painting is so important for this season of my life, for this wilderness season, for anyone who finds themselves in a lost place, because sometimes coming home means coming home to yourself, your brilliant, beloved, sparkling self, in all that makes you, you, a unique reflection of God's love. Sometimes God isn't calling you to some far-off place where someone will wrap you in a robe and make you a banquet feast. Sometimes moving within and beyond the lostness looks like sitting with your hands open, holding sharp yet colorful pieces of yourself, seeking a home nestled in your core. Yes, it is a vulnerable thing to sit with your hands open and your core exposed. When the wind blows, you feel the cool breeze running through you like taking a drink of ice-cold water with a mouthful of sensitive teeth. Even if someone's voice is too loud, you can feel the vibrations in the core of your window pane. It's a vulnerable thing to sit, exposed, raw, as if your core were made of a stained glass window. But sometimes we don't have a choice. Sometimes life, the wilderness, lostness, strips away all that we hide behind. Lost places, the wilderness is not for sitting and wondering when again you might be found. Sometimes we have to trudge through our lostness, picking up shards of glass, glimmers of truth that invite us home to our own bodies. When voices of stolen power speak so loudly we drown in their decibels, we stop. We heighten our senses, and we say, that does not sound like truth. That does not taste like truth. And that certainly does not feel like truth, but this
does. Sitting in this chapel, hearing the gifts of our community, singing songs together, dwelling in the creations of people around us, surrounded by stained glass, this feels like truth, revealing slivers of the face of God. My hope today is not to rush through the wilderness to get us all quickly wrapped in robes sitting at our own banquet feasts, because the wilderness is important. It's in the lostness, the shattering of what was once so familiar and comfortable, that we build, we create, we draw outside of the lines, and we bleed like a holy, sacred watercolor painting. I hope today, beloved, we might find tiny glass pieces of home in our blessed wholeness, in our radical belovedness, in you being all that you are, even in the lostness.
Hello. My name is Kyle. I'm a first-year MDiv student here at the School of Theology. I'm going to be sharing a song to give a little bit of context. I wrote this when I was a sophomore in college. It was a time where I was at a campus ministry that was more evangelical than my upbringing, and so it was making me ask a lot of questions and really confront questions of what is salvation? What is the gospel? What is the good news for me? And what does that even look like? And this was kind of my answer to that for myself at the time, and it was also trying to capture a moment where I felt like I was connected to God, and this will be the opening scene of the song. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about in a second. But yeah, I loved what Jamie was saying. In the lostness, there's fertile ground for creativity, so that definitely matches up with what happened here. So this is called Start Anew. I wake up this morning and brew me some tea, grab a journal and a pencil just to be with me. Light shines in and reminds my soul of a truth that I experienced so long ago. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. My life just begun as we start anew, like the rising of the sun, with the past behind. We're future blind, worries will just let them be. But now I live for you and for me, because right now is our eternity. Walk on home below the clouds, along with people hurrying on in endless crowds. Recall the before and now planning the rest of today as if the next event is on the test. I trip on a branch and look at the tree as I watch its limbs and leaves move energetically. I notice you and it's easy to see, despite the storm we need to laugh and dance and sing. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. My life has only just begun as we start anew, like the rising of the sun,
use photography as a way to process and think through whatever I'm going through. And I started this project with a tentative title of Becoming, because I started to think about my short time that I've spent here at STH, and I really think that this is the first religious space that I can stand in and no one is telling me this is the one way to worship God. And that is really liberating, but also really scary, because now I have to figure out what I believe. So I found a lot of solace in nature, which you can see in my photographs, and in writing I've included a sample of poetry on the wall as well.
Hello, so my name is Youngjun, and I'm the first year Indian student. And the song I'm going to share is called Shalom, and it's from South Korea song, and it's called Dohyang Kim. And so this song is when I went through the difficulty and the shalom, and when God called me my son and my Israel, that when I listened it, closing my eyes, and this made me relax a lot and felt God's presence. So I will sing this song to you. Shalom, 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 shalom. It's I, be not afraid, my son, my daughter, be of good cheer. Shalom, 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 shalom. My peace I give unto you, not as the world gives. Do not be afraid. Shalom.
an invocation of meaninglessness. WHATSHADOWED, question mark. EYES, comma, ASSEENTHROUGHTHELESCOPICLENS, comma, INDICATEANGER hyphen ORMAYBE hyphen THESCURIOUSDISCOVERY, question mark. The symbols which make up our language are inherently meaningless. But symbols grow into language, communication, and become a testament to the perceptive creature's role as co-creator. For we too make something out of nothing, make meaning out of meaninglessness. What shadowed vowels echo through this unbridgeable chasm? Eyes, as seen through telescopic lens, indicate anger, or maybe the squint of curious discovery.
In efforts to allow us to dwell and linger with the pieces longer in the narthex and to respond creatively longer, we're going to invite the seminary singers up now to sing the prayer, and then we will have the opportunity to respond and linger and dwell afterwards.
benediction and our blessing today will be our act of resistance through creation. In this space, behind me there are 2 tables in the pulpit area where you can do an ink project or a collaborative watercolor. In the back, there's things to do some coloring projects with, or you can sit with the art pieces that are up from Ezra, Aaron, and Joanne. This is our benediction, that in a place, in a building that has been used to gatekeep power, we will paint, and we will sing, and we will bear witness to our creations together. Amen.